Well, good morning, crowd. Out on the Arizona Trail at about 6:35 in the morning. Beautiful day. That's around March 2nd or 3rd or something like that. Of course, I'm old and retired. I don't have to worry about the days. I am on passage 11. Passage 11. I think it's called the Santa Catalina Mountains Passage. Now, unfortunately, these guys have had a bunch of forest fires, which is kind of how it goes nowadays in the world. Lots of forest fires all over the place. And I guess the main primary trail is closed due to forest fires. I'm actually walking up the alternate, which is a trail that basically goes a little bit farther to the east, but it also is partially closed. And so I'm going to hike today on the trail somewhere between 10 and 12 miles. Depends who you ask. Guthook says 10, roughly. 2,400 foot climb. It'll be a good day, a good challenging day. I can tell you what, we're headed back up Mount Lemmon is what we are, which is the second mountain range that is close to Tucson, Arizona. It's the northernmost one. Now I'm planning on doing this in 2 days, and so basically I'm going to hike this first chunk on the trail all the way up here. Hike the first chunk on the trail, and then basically the trail is closed from there on, and I'm going to have to do a road walk all the way to the top of the mountain on this highway that's right to my right over here. You can see it right behind me there, the Santa Catalina Highway. The other way there's another route to go, but it's way worse for me than this. It's sort of like straight up a mountain. I don't need that. I'd rather walk on the highway for 6 or 7 miles than get out in country that's all beat up and so steep you can't stand on it. This is good enough, but I heard tell that other one is not that great. So yeah, that is kind of the plan. So we'll be hiking along here. Look at this, the Arizona Trail has its own little crosswalk right here. I crossed one down the Santa Catalina Highway here 2 days ago. Hey, what, you're like walking in, it's kind of like being in a city. Look at that. Got my own crosswalk. And there's no traffic either, although this road gets lots of traffic. Later on, you'll see traffic on here. When I spend the day walking on here tomorrow, you'll see lots of traffic. So yeah, so that's the plan. Meanwhile, back at the camper, we got done with that terrible Reddington Road drive yesterday. Jiminy Christmas, what a bumpy road coming out of there. My goodness. But we're done with that now. And of course they can drive on the highway all the way to here, which is a nice drive. And then tonight they'll meet me up the highway. And then the next day it's up the highway. And then the next day is what's called Oracle Ridge. So basically you go from the top of the mountain clear down to a town called Oracle. And Oracle Ridge Road, at the bottom of Oracle Ridge is Oracle, and it's a good road to where they pick me up there. So if I'm strong enough, we're gonna go clear to Oracle. At that point, once we have arrived at Oracle, we're gonna take a week off, we got some things to do back at our place in western Arizona. So we go back there and spend a week, which would be fine. I got a lot of blisters that are healing right now, or are going to need to heal. Whichever the case, who knows how many more I'll get here. And By the way, the blister thing is going really well. I mean, other than the fact that you have blisters, right? But it's not, you know, it's, when you can't feel your feet like I can't, you know, you're gonna get blisters. That's what's gonna happen. You don't even know. The fact is, it's always a thing. I say, okay, well, we're taking the socks off. Have a look at the bottom of those feet. I don't even know if I've got a blister, you know? You can walk on it all day and it doesn't even hurt you a bit. Now that's a benefit for those of you who have blisters and they hurt you, but it's not a benefit for trying to keep from getting an infection, you know, from a blister you didn't know you had. So I kind of have to be careful of that. And so we're doing really good on that note, doing good there. Check it out, right down there. That's meanwhile back at the camper down at Gordon Hayabayashi campground. Of course, if you look up here, get a good view of Tucson way down there. Woo, I'm glad to be up in the mountains. I don't want to be down there. Looking pretty good. Look way the heck over there. And you're looking at Micah climb that thing. This is another one just like it. Good clean fun, right? Keep me out of trouble. Well, we got a little bit of flat trail here. Steep up to there, actually, really steep. Into pretty country again up here. So little bitty live oaks and yeah, bear grass. You know, the whole business. It's actually pretty. This country is pretty. So it looks like we have this time here where we're going to be having to walk on a road, right? You know, road walks are like, you know, who wants to walk on a road? Well, the reason I want to bring this up is there's been some fires up here, right? I got a story about getting into a burned area and about how unsafe that can actually get. Had to have been about, I don't know, 4 years ago. Granny and I, we went for a springtime little backpacking trip into an area in eastern Oregon. We didn't look at the weather really carefully. It didn't matter too much. We get down there and it turns out it's been burned recently, like the fall before or the summer before. And we had a windstorm that really you couldn't beat. I mean, you could hear it coming, you know, a strong windstorm. You could hear that wind coming a long ways away. And you could hear it coming. And it did that all afternoon, one afternoon. And I mean, literally, entire forests were falling down in front of our eyes right there. Entire forests. I don't know if you know how quaking aspen grows, you know, in a big old bunch. Well, there were spots there where the quaking aspen had been burnt, and it knocked down, you know, the first of them, and then they all fell down like a bunch of dominoes, like big yellow pine trees going down. Some of them as big as 2.5 feet at the butt. Great big ones. I mean, and literally you could stand there and see, you know, 5 or 6 of them going down at any point around you. Well, we heard this great big gust coming down the deal. We're headed out like, well, we knew this wasn't safe, right? a big old gust coming down the canyon. And a big tree fell over, like right in front of us, off to the side. Then you can see one right smack in front of us, falling right at us, right? So we ran and dove under the tree that had just fallen beside us, right? And there was a nice little opening under there for two of us to get under it. And it hit just after we got under there. And I was wearing a hat like this. And when it hit, it slapped, you know, I mean, it was like about 6 feet away probably. But a lot of the limbs hit the tree we were underneath, right? And some of them slapped and curved around underneath of there, and I was wearing a white hat like this. I wore that for years. That was my I'm not at work hat back when I used to work. It hit me right there in the head and drove a hole in my hat, and a fairly, you know, nice big scratch on my forehead right there. You know, I was probably about, you know, half an inch from death right there. And just a little bit harder than that, that stick would have went right through my head. And that would have been the end of me. It would have been no walking the Arizona Trail. Could have been so. Now, the really cool thing that I hope nobody else ever gets to experience is that we dove underneath of that tree, and just the seconds before that stick hit me in the head, like even a half a second maybe, that big tree hit the ground right next to us, right? And the trunk of it actually hit the ground. It wasn't propped up on nothing. Hit the ground hard, and the air was just full of this amazing smell of wet dirt. I mean, it smelled like you were walking behind a 12-bottom plow that had just turned over the whole forest right there. I enjoyed it. Just, you know, the half a second before that stick hit me in the head. Kind of cool. You might as well, you know, find the silver lining, right? I say I ought to learn something from not dying in that little experience I had there. Probably ought to learn that. Mostly, none of us learn anything from anybody else. We just have to get the consequences ourselves. Or at least that's how I am. But maybe there's somebody smart enough out there to learn something from history. And if you can, cool, go for it. Hey, you know, I did pretty good walking up this hill and talking. Well, we got a little bitty road walk right here. You can see it, it's about a quarter mile. Gonna pop off again right up there onto my next little trail chunk. So I've done the majority of it now, I'm guessing, as far as how it looks on the map anyhow. And so we shall see how this goes. I like walking on the road, it's easy. There's no 2,000 foot climbs and 2,000 foot drops, followed by 2,000 foot climbs and 2,000 foot drops. Had several big climbs and drops this morning. You know, walking on the road is just steady and easy. Makes you kind of say, yeah, I like it a little bit. It's all right with me. Anyhow, off and running. Yeah, well, we're just up river from the General Hitchcock campground, and we're walking up this creek. I got about 3.9 miles to go today. Feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm more than halfway through. Been some serious ups and some serious downs, so it's been a bit of a challenging hike. You see, man, this place down here is full of big boulders. You wouldn't want to have been here when all these things came down here. Gee, many Christmas. Yeah. And you got big old live oaks growing down here, and yellow pine trees, all that stuff. It's pretty country. Now the funny thing is, you go up the blooming hill about 30 yards. It's completely different country up there, for sure, but nonetheless, still quite nice. Still quite nice, I'd say. Kind of one of the nice things about walking in these, in the bottoms of these little canyons like this, is it is really just like a whole different ecosystem when you hit the bottom. And so, I like it. I like it, I like it.